Oh, I'm advised the CEO for NEPAD is here. Members, I plead for your energy, enthusiasm, determination, and the patience. This is our last item. Come in the chamber. We needed these two presentations to complement each other because they give us a general, if not detailed, the overview of what the AU is doing in trying to improve the quality of life on this continent. And I hereby welcome Her Excellency CEO of NEPAD, the AUDA-NEPAD, Bekele-Thomas. Unfortunately, as you sit, I'll ask you to stand up and come and present. I believe it won't be a long presentation. It will just be to get us to know what you are up to, so that the MPs can know where they can also hook in, because we need to our responsibility as a parliament in terms of the protocol is to facilitate the implementation of AU policies and programs. That's one of them, and make people aware of what AU is trying to do, even through NEPAD, through AfCFTA, through whichever agriculture. So tell us where as MPs we can complement your work and what you are trying, how you are trying to improve Africa. Since the first day I met her at various fora, she presents in a very, 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 very passionate manner. So you can proceed.
Thank you very much, President. Really, I would like to start by thanking you and congratulating you and you know, expressing our admiration for the way you lead this assembly. Thank you very much for your vision. Thank you very much for, you know, introducing this participatory way of, you know, understanding, exchanging the challenges of this continent, knowing that each and every African in this continent is responsible for his or her action and, you know, for defining the destiny of Africa. Distinguished honorable members of the parliament, today as I was coming, I was just reflecting. I was just reflecting because of the fact that where we are living, you know, the world has totally changed. And the world is even talking about what kind of economic order should we put in place to make sure the economies in general work for us, because the economic system in the world is not delivering the results, not for us certainly, and not for the world. And as you can see, you know, right now there is a threat of, you know, stagflation, because if the recession, if the inflation in the world is not contained, it will lead us to stagflation. And therefore they're concerned. But when they're concerned, what concerns me more is what is the role of Africa? Are we still going to follow the agenda that is going to be set by the rest of the world? And that is a preoccupation that should be for each and every African living in this world. We cannot afford to still be continuing depending on the agenda that is being set. We cannot afford to being led by the principles and values that have never delivered for us, and institutions that have been found to be inadequate. And we need really to be the agenda setters. We need to set our own agenda. We need to define our path. And we need to put our acts together. I mean, you know, when I just listen to all the discourse, all the discourse actually, and discussions and dialogues in Africa, I just find most of the discourse to be inconsequential to the socio-economic transformation and to building the Africa we want. Today in this world, Africa is paying for all the ills of the past and the present. We're paying heavily for the damages caused by climate change. We're paying heavily as we talk for the inflation that is caused by others. We're paying heavily as we talk for the monetary policy by the US, because if you see the inflation in our continent is coming to 2 digits in 19 countries. And East Africa leading the way by 25.3. Of course, the outlier is Zimbabwe, 285%. And that is mainly because of the, on one hand, the conflict, but because of the monetary policies of the US to protect their own economy. But it has got ripple effect on us. We are also, as a result of that, encountering an increased debt GDP ratio, 60%, and we will have to borrow. We'll have to borrow to make sure that we respond to the needs of our countries and the continent. And here the question is not whether we should borrow or we should not, and I always say it's not about borrowing or not borrowing, because we have to borrow, because the fiscal space is constricted. But we as parliamentarians, you as parliamentarians, have to hold governments accountable for the utilization of these funds. If these funds are used properly, the $75 billion that Africa would have to pay in 2023 and 2024 could be offset by the gains we'll make from just a tourism sector, which brings $185 billion. If you parliamentarians get together and look at what the cost of the national determined contributions are for Africa, it comes to $3.3 trillion, which is almost, you know, our GDP in general for the continent. But this could be offset if we put our foot together and say, listen, the second lung we offer you, okay? The oxygen that we give you just from the Congo River Basin is assessed to be $8.3 trillion, which would mean if we get it and we are in a fair global economic order, it would have paid off for our nationally contributed, you know, nationally determined contributions in each country, and we would have had $5 trillion to do all the other things that we want to do to develop and to transform our continent. I guess each one of us has to be conscious of all these. But in order to be conscious, we have to clean our homes. We have to put order to our homes. We have to be aware of what there is in the future and be prepared for the future. Like last time, I came to you, I appealed to you, I said, we have got, you know, the, oh, Chair, how many minutes do I have?
Sorry?
How many minutes do I have?
Minutes. Just regulate yourself.
Okay, all right, okay. Regulate myself means expand it, contract it the way I want to. Thank you so much, President. Thank you very much. So last time I came to tell you of the programs that we had put in place in response to the whole economic needs, socio-economic needs of Africa. I am here to report to you because really, I think AUDA-NEPAD, like any AU organ, has the responsibility to be accountable and to report to the people of Africa. And in order to report to the people of Africa, it's through you, parliamentarians, that we can do it in a very efficient, effective way. Last year, when I came, I said the first thing is to make sure that the beautiful blueprint that we have, Agenda 2063, becomes the agenda of the people of Africa. Today, I am happy and pleased to report to you that Agenda 2063 and its 10-year implementation report and the review of this progress report has been the subject of multi-stakeholder consultations in each and every of your country. And this has been done through your ministers of planning and your ministers of finance. We allocated a seed funding of $20,000 for each country, which came to multiply it, 1-point-something million, which is nothing, but it has been catalytic in bringing people together and mobilizing resources together and making people understand that the Vision 2063 is not the vision of the elites, but it's the vision of Africa's. And the Africa we want is not just a slogan, but is an aspiration of each and every citizen of Africa. So that has been done. The second thing that we have done, we're having regional trainings on foresight planning. Remember last time I came and I said we have to stop planning for today's problems and yesterday's deficiencies, but we have to plan and anticipate tomorrow's problems and plan for them. Accordingly, we're having 5 regional trainings going on as we speak, and 2 are already conducted on foresight planning and also scenario building, bringing together African planners and African statisticians. We are also having meetings with all statisticians to ensure that the data is collected efficiently, effectively, analyzed, and made to application when we are planning. That systems are developed, and these trainings are ongoing. So that was number 1. The second, remember when we talked about Energize Africa, the youth, on how to make sure that 70% of our population, consisting of youth and women, are integrated within the socio-economic transformation processes of our continent. Today, I'm here to report that we have at least achieved something. First is we wanted to have consultations all over. You know, we did have consultations. We spoke to at least 20 African countries and presidents at the highest authority, ministers of youth, got confirmation of what their needs are and what they think we should incorporate in this program. They embraced the 3 components that we have already spelled out. The first one is to make sure that we use the youth in public service, to make sure that the public service responds to the needs of the youth, but also to reform the public service and to ensure that we circumvent the restrictions of recruiting additional resources in the public service because of the wage bill. That is number 1. And right now, as we're speaking, the regional economic communities have embraced this and they're running with it. We've had meetings with them. The second one was the innovation hubs, creating the innovation hubs, making sure that the youth express their creativity within these innovation hubs. And I'm happy to report that we have found 2 or 3 champions of this program, including 4 or 5 champions from the private sector, in addition to our leaders. And we are developing the programs. But as we are speaking, Kenya, Equatorial Guinea, and Nigeria have really embraced it. And today I heard from the Minister of Youth here, they have embraced this program and they would like to develop it and to go with us. And Morocco, by the way, I forgot Morocco. So the way we are conceiving this is mapping, first of all, what exists, benchmarking it with what exists in the rest of the world, advanced ones, and making sure that we scale up and upscale the products and services, and then try to see where the gaps are, identify the gaps, and then fill in the gaps. So this is where we are on that. The third one is on MSMEs. We have mobilized the necessary resources, which we had before, but mobilize more resources from the EU, from the Germans, and from Japan, in terms of trying to see how we can support the micro, medium, and small scale enterprises. But not only doing that, but also looking at what exists, because there are many, many actors in the whole of Africa. Many actors, actually. It's crowded, okay? But it's crowded without an impact. So we're looking at why can't we make an impact with all these different institutions, NGOs, international NGOs, programs of the UN and whatever. And we are looking at what is there, analyzing it, finding the gaps, and trying to see if we can improve on the products and the services that we provide to the youth. And obviously, attached to that is the conducive environment that governments have to put to make sure that African youth can thrive in making their businesses successful. Here, I will depend upon you. Honorable parliamentarians, when you go back, plead and make sure that the rules, regulations, the bylaws, laws are conducive to youth enterprises and to women enterprises. Design a way of making land to be available to all. Ownership is not that important, but we can have access to land in many forms, and that is critical. And we depend on this August gathering to help us move this agenda forward. It shouldn't be a rhetoric, it should be action. It should be implementation. We are at crossroads, honorable gentlemen and ladies. We are really at crossroads. When we talk about CADEP and the NAIP, you must have heard that there was a food summit recently with the ADB and ourselves in Dakar. We made headways, we signed compacts with governments to make sure that the pledges that have been translated in terms of investment plan in the national agriculture investment plans of their countries derived from the comprehensive agricultural framework gets implemented. Ladies and gentlemen, I beg you, when you go back to your countries, look at these compacts and make sure that the resources that have been mobilized go to the right sector and towards the implementation of the NAIP. On infrastructure, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you, remember when I was standing here, I said I'm really saddened by the fact that to go to Equatorial Guinea or to go to Congo or to go even to Rwanda or these countries, I have to pass through other places, going to Europe, going to Frankfurt or whatever, or Abu Dhabi or Dubai. And one of the things that we had said was that, how come that we are giving our air to others to operate and restricting our own from operating? And together with the commissioner, there was a very interesting development that happened at the sidelines of the AU summit. We are looking forward for the outcomes so that we can implement the outcomes of these discussions. But most importantly, we had the Dakar Financing Summit. Maybe some of you have participated in that. The Dakar Financing Summit was really a completely different summit. It wasn't even a summit, it was a conference than others. It wasn't just talk. We developed 22 infrastructure programs from our PAP 2. We presented that to investors. Yes, there was a high-level political discussion, but we had deal rooms with all investors there. And I thank the President of Senegal for this. And therefore, there was result there, because without infrastructure, we cannot develop. So that is what we did. And I'm just trying to report what has been done over the last year, among the many things. On gender, we have mobilized some resources. We are going to put our gender program forward, and we would be consulting all countries. In whatever we do, sector by sector, we cannot do it alone. We depend on your governments. And please, please, please help us in making sure the legislation, the rules, regulations are, in line with our ambitions. I want to thank you very much. Thank you so much.